Hello, you multi-purpose makers, and a big thank you to Aaron O'Neill number 3 for that malt mention. I'm Ralphie. Welcome to my channel called Ralphie.com. It's primarily a whiskey review channel. That's what I do. I've been doing it for the last 14 years, since I first used dial-up to get access to the internet, which started to do things other than send and receive emails. And that's when I started my channel in 2009, February 2009. And 14 years later, I finally arrived at Ralphie Review 1000. So just to put you in the picture here, that's 1,000 reviews. I'd like to tell you that every dram was an absolute joy. Many have been an absolute joy, not just of whiskey but of rum and other spirits I've reviewed over the years. But primarily I've focused on Scotch whiskey because it's what's around me, it's what's part of my culture, it's what's part of my landscape. And within that landscape there has been one distillery which has always retained my attention over these 14 years, as so much has changed so significantly for Scotch whisky globally, and that distillery is Springbank. Here's an example of Springbank from my archive. This is the 11-year-old local barley. I have reviewed it in the past. I've just merely brought it with me today to this beautiful location to enjoy a wee celebratory dram, and to let you know that the remaining 4 videos as part of this 1000th review mini-series, covering a total of 5 videos, is called Return to Springbank. And the reason I'm taking the opportunity to focus specifically on Springbank is because, in my opinion, it's Scotland's most important and iconic distillery. And I'm not just basically giving them some flattery here, it's a lot more substantial than that. Like many of you who are seasoned malt mates and Patreon subscribers, Pat Pals, you will know that Scotch whisky landscape is a changing landscape, and in particular there has been a lot of changes over the last 10 years and 5 years in particular. It used to be that I could go to my local shop and buy bottles like this and they were available, but such is the demand for the best Scotch whisky that it's becoming less and less available to us all, simply because we have to share it out between more and more people who appreciate what quality is. And this is Springbank's ace card. This is Springbank's diamond, in that there's no other distillery which personifies the intrinsic, achievable, doable, authentic, real, practical, experience-based quality of what Scotch whisky can be more than Springbank. I wish I could buy it myself as easily as I used to, but I have got to join the queue like everybody else, and frankly it's not a problem to me because there are other distilleries out there which in their own way offer us great value whiskies, like Arran, Glencadam, Lechac, Deanston, and then there's the independent bottlers which have done so much good for Scotch whisky, more than they have ever been credited for by the official distillery bottling suppliers, who tend to even now look down their nose at the independent bottlers as basically being another source of income should they have a few spare casks to let go out into the wider world. The thing is, many of these independent bottlers work minor miracles with the casks that they're forced to buy, and with proper cask management they turn them into something magnificent, particularly when they do what Springbank have done, what Springbank continue to do: bottle with integrity, so a minimum of 46%, bottle unchill filtered, and bottle naturally coloured without the addition of industrial E150 caramel food colourant. And to the occasional whisky buyer, that's not really important. But if you're watching this video, you have more than a passing interest in Scotch whisky and other quality spirits, and it's a magnificent journey so long as we can manage our alcohol consumption. And we have to be careful about that. We have to keep the beast caged. We have to sip responsibly, and we have to know ourselves, know our patterns, know our weaknesses, but of course acknowledge our strengths. And one of our significant strengths is that we appreciate what quality can be in terms of delivery by drinking alcohol. And it can be phenomenal, magnificent, memorable, life enhancing, opinion changing, mood forming, enlightening, company making, engaging, phenomenal at times, frustrating at times, but very rarely boring. So I'm going to propose you a toast here. All you malt mates, cheers, slàinte, and here's to, fingers crossed, if I can get away with it, another 1,000 reviews on this channel here on YouTube called Ralphie.com. I've really appreciated your company along this journey, because for many of you it's a two-way exchange, particularly in the Patreon channel, and Ralphie, R-A-L-F-Y, and Patreon. It's lovely to get this, to overview the conversations, the very informed conversations, and then occasionally participate in them. And of course to address all the questions in the live streams, which is always fun, and my goodness, time does fly. But I'm going to conclude this video now with a proper introduction to my return to Springbank. I've said earlier in this video that Springbank is without question, and I doubt anybody out there will challenge me in this, quite simply Scotland's most important distillery, because they do everything in-house and they do everything without computers, and the result is that they produce a living spirit, which is the sum of every single component part in its production, from the steeping, the sourcing of the grain, to the steeping, to the maltings, to the kilnings, to the millings, to the sparging, to the fermentation, to the distillation in their 3 small and fascinating individual stills, to the warehousing in traditional warehouses. Well, they've had to build new ones, of course, but we can forgive them that, because they're constrained by modern whisky dynamics and lack of space. And then of course they conclude by bottling at the distillery. And we should not underestimate this. Every distillery out there, every single distillery can bottle at the distillery, but the majority choose not to, for economy and convenience. And this, unfortunately, is a theme that we see more and more of, malt mates, in the Scotch whisky industry, is the economy and convenience of cost cutting and labour saving and mechanisation, industrialisation, of higher yields, of lower issues with yield, of higher marketing commitment and spend, of the same old banal messages coming back to us from marketing on steroids when they are not properly and professionally handled. And this is my suggestion to the Scotch whisky industry, is the more you economise with scale and the introduction of automation and efficiencies, the more you're changing Scotch whisky into Scotch whisky vodka, the more you're sanitising the product, and the more these sanitised products tend to be at the mercy and the whim of whatever quality of cask you happen to be maturing your spirit in. There's so much more of a skill, and experience is hugely important in the making of Scotch whisky. And for every new distillery out there, it will be an enormous challenge to be noticed in the increasing hubbub of noise as every unique, authentic and individual new distillery wants to make itself heard. But I recommend to each and every new distiller that they head to Springbank and have a tour and see what Scotch whisky can be, and then go back to the distillery and replicate it as best they can, even if it costs more money. Patience is a virtue. Patience requires time, and the rewards of virtue is that you can create something as authentic, original, and ultimately you put the single and singularity into single malt whisky where it really belongs, at a moment in time when other people in the industry unfortunately lose sight of this. The world is changing, it's changing fast. There's a culture in Scotch whisky which believes that the reputation of Scotch whisky is untouchable. Let me tell you, from this magnificent coastal view, it's not true. The reputation of Scotch whisky is completely stealable if it's not looked after, if it's not protected. And it's in days like this, with a nice view and a wee dram up in a hillside somewhere, that we can have time to reflect on this, and reflect on the future of Scotch whisky, and keep our fingers crossed that it will be looked after properly by the captains of industry. Well, fingers crossed, we can only hope. But for the newcomers to the whisky industry, around the world, other distilleries, other cultures, other recipes, other styles of production, I tell you what, good luck to you. You go for it. But importantly, be the best you can be. And if you ever make your way to Scotland, the home of whisky, make time to drive round to Springbank, because it's the best distillery you could possibly visit in Scotland to learn about whisky, bar none. Welcome to the return to Springbank. It's 4 more videos now. 3 interviews with other people and an interview with myself, all taking place at Springbank. Cheers. I'll leave you with a view. This was bottled in 2017. That's 6 years ago. I've been really struggling to buy these kinds of bottles since. But hey ho, such is the way of the world.